All right, so I'm going to talk about how to lead a class discussion. Now, this could work whether you are an SI leader alone or with a partner. Generally, what I like to do, I have a framework, which is pretty much, if you know what the topic is, if it's something that's carried over from 113, to come up with a group of questions. 3 to 5, they could be very broad. You can either get them with the help of your SI partner, your professor, or you can check your handbook. They have some good strategies, depending on what the topic is. Best not to do it on the fly, but if that's the case, usually you do that within the class discussion, but more on that in a moment. So, like let's say for example, you want to look at a topic like visual rhetoric, and you're looking at an advertisement. It's a provocative advertisement. It could be something like from the Amnesty International, where a human rights organization group, and they want to use imageries of death and then of course consumerism. Well, there's a lot going on with that. And so you want to come up with some questions, but they, like I said, they could be very broad. The first thing could be you could write on the board and say, how does this affect you? And then it could be something more specific. What is the ethos of this? What is the pathos of this advertisement? So you put those types of questions on the board. You get everyone in either groups, individually, however you want to do it. I'll tell you beforehand, at first you might want to put them into groups if it's your first couple days or couple weeks, however it is. You're going to kind of get to know your students, but if you think they work better in groups, then do so, either in pairs, on their tables, 4 to 5, that's up to you. And what you want them to do is pretty much just answer those questions you have on the board. Write them down, okay? It could be bullet pointed, however you want. And about 5 to 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes, depending on how everyone's doing, you'll get a feel for it. And then you basically just start. You just walk around the room, you start answering the question. Put up the advertisement if you have it, if you're lucky enough to have it with you, and just talk about it. Especially like what I was saying, if you want to get to know your students, you might have them respond individually. Perhaps they'll be very emotional, or perhaps they'll be kind of quiet, or they won't know what to say. You could always have a group leader answer the questions for them, for the entire table, for the entire group. Now, and as I start answering questions, it's best to not let that answer kind of just go up in the wind, right? Or to go out. You want to take that concept. Maybe the person has an argument. It could be as simple as like for or against, or maybe they have a different viewpoint. And if it relates to one of the questions you're talking about, write that down as an answer, okay? And what that's going to keep that conversation going about that specific position. So then you go to another table and you say, that group has a completely different viewpoint. Put that viewpoint on the board, okay? And then suddenly you might have 3 to 5 different answers for one question. And that's easy. That's also good for you, because then you could say, without having to answer the question yourself or act like you know the answer to it, you can say, well, look what we just did. We just came up with so many different answers. Or you can even play devil's advocate and say, well, okay, group 1, why did you come up with this idea? And what do you agree with this? Do you see the position that group is making? Then suddenly you've got a conversation between groups, okay? And the other classmates are listening in on it. And suddenly you have this big conversation going. And when that all becomes relevant, let's say this class discussion is going to lead later into a paper topic or a position argument in a paper. You can say, well, now look, you've got all these different concepts about this one advertisement, and they could all be translated into a good paper. Whether you want to take one of those positions or all of them or a couple of them, that's going to be up to the student, obviously, but at least you've facilitated that and given them a good path.